Thanks. Great presentation, by the way. I don't have to say a lot. I think David can do a better job in the first third of this presentation talking about where we are in the industry. You like to think that we're civilized and we get information, we process it, and we act accordingly. But we don't, especially when it comes to politicians. We have an energy crisis. I just came back from London, and it's staggering how many families are having to wonder about food versus leaving the heat on. It's mind-boggling. But we have it because I think it comes down to whatever reason people like being told fairy tales, that somehow we can move to wind and solar overnight and not have to, and the number I saw was our fossil fuels today are about 81% of all our energy needs. It was 82 about 10 years ago. So despite all the money we've spent, we are where we are. So the things that you're seeing on front pages is, Japan is turning on nuclear power. They're actually building new reactors versus just putting the ones they have back on after Fukushima. Germany is probably your poster child for naivety. They budgeted $1 trillion to connect 3,900 kilometers of sun and solar. They spent about most of it, and they built 39 kilometers. Not 10%, 1%. Imagine any CEO in this room standing up and says, I think, roughly we'll have 1 million ounces coming out in our next report, and you put out 1,000. You'd be fired. You'd be in jail. But not politicians. They can say what they want, and people seem to have very short memories. But we are having an energy crisis. So Fission is in the business of looking for uranium. We have been doing so as a team since 1996. The two things I would say that's different, we have a Democrat Party that likes nuclear, which you didn't always have before. It was always a Republican thing. Now it's not. You need power, period. And secondly, the Greens now consider nuclear a part of that mix. Now, you saw that last year in the big movie Uranium when the general funds were pouring money into Sprott's physical trust. And so Peter Grosskopf set that up with the original goal of raising like $300 million. When I saw him last summer, they went to $1 billion in no time and higher. So I believe that once we get the general market settled down and that starts to trade at a premium, they will start to sell into it, take that money and buy more physical. So I think that's what's really causing this incredible disconnection between uranium prices and stock prices. We need a lot of power, and I'm not saying it's the only way to go, but I do believe that if we want a cleaner world, nuclear has to be a part of it. And you can see all these different reactors that are being built all over the world. I've had the fortunate experience of being in China a lot, done business there with the nuclear groups. They're way ahead of it. They don't have to wonder if that's going to win them the next election. They just build reactors. RBC, they have given a very positive outlook on it. Morgan Stanley. And now we have every year we have a deficit. We've always had a deficit. We've always had a deficit of about 60 million pounds, but it's always been filled in with, especially in the last decade with Fukushima, Japan was selling into it versus buying it. And again, you're seeing green energy saying, hey, we need to include nuclear power in it. Environmentalists are finally supporting it, even in California, where I would call them the Germany of the United States. They have said they're going to leave the reactor in Diablo Canyon on. They were going to turn it down. I don't know if you saw a while back, Newsom said that they wanted to have no more production of gasoline cars, gasoline powered. Then 4 days later, he asked everybody with an electric car not to plug it in. So, and again, I don't know why nobody ever calls these guys out. Just to give an idea, the stats show that hybrid and electric cars in California are only 8%. So let's just cut that in half. That means you literally need 25 times my energy just for electric cars. And someone said they need to build like 20 reactors by that time. One thing that I do see helping the process will be small modular reactor SMRs. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are building their own in Wyoming. Rolls-Royce is just well funded in the UK to do so. And I do believe this is the answer, for a lot of smaller issues. Like, you could build one in the Athabasca for all the mines there rather than diesel. Why us? Well, if you bought a share in 2007 of a company called Strathmore Minerals, which I was the CEO and founder, you looked in your account today, you would have 4 different companies. You would have Energy Fuels, Denison, Fission Uranium, and Fission 3.0. What we've been able to do is always buy assets in bear markets, able to bring in partners, sell, build, and et cetera. So that's our track record. The thing that you always want to know is are the insiders putting their own money in, and is my interest aligned with them? That's something you have to ask no matter what the asset is. I've always believed that there's nothing more important in the world when it comes to junior companies and management's track record to attract capital, human capital, find, and build. And I don't think anybody's done it as well as we have in uranium space. We love the Athabasca. I see people here from the Tune. They've had 60 years of uranium experience. It's a great jurisdiction, and above all, it's great. I used to put up this political map, and I always say, why is majority of the uranium in the world going to come from crazy-ass places with a lot of, political risk? I took it out because people said I was nuts. Oh, no, Russians are friend. Russia's our friend. Well, maybe not. So now the problems we're seeing is we've relied too much. Martin Katusa wrote a good book on Putinization of the commodities, and I'd recommend you read it, and exactly what's happened today. We're seeing control of the energy space not in our own hands. If there was an Oscars for uranium companies, we won every award possible, whether it was a Prospect of the Year, mining, and etc. That's the past. What are we going to do? But it's good to have people at the helm that have done it before. Triple R and arrows from NextGen, there would be none of that. There would be nothing in the West if it wasn't for this crazy idea someone had to fly an airplane really low to the ground and try to detect radioactivity on the surface. Sounds nuts. Well, it sounds even crazier when you have to realize these airplanes only about 30 feet off the ground. But this fellow Kai came to us with the idea, because it was similar to what they did in diamonds, where they would take a chopper and go close to blossom and chuck in them. That's what they did. They found garnets, which are indicators, which led to the discovery. This is how the West was won. Was this an innovative idea? We felt we need to look for boulders close to the surface, on surface, or any kind of outcrops. And when we did it, we flew it, we found this land. And I think there was, the Bible said, prior to this staking rush we put in, we discovered, everybody would tell you, never go to the West. There's nothing out there. And secondly, you have to stay within what's now the basin. Well, Triple R discovery was actually, we're not in the basin technically, because Mother Nature's moved the sandstone like it's like a milkshake sitting on the hard rock, got moved. So there is no arrow, there is no Triple R unless somebody comes up with an idea. But that's how David's beat Goliath. We don't have the muscle. We beat them with just having to outthink it, and that's how we found it. And I remember when we found the boulders, I didn't get it. This guy did. Dave was always excited. Dave, you got to go after those boulders. You got to chase those boulders. I'm going, of course, that's why I can write a book for dummies for uranium, and he can't. And David said, he was right. On our 16th hole, we made the discovery. That blue map then led to a small shell company called NextGen raising money to drill for arrow. So, anyways, this is how we find them. People say, how do we find uranium? You've got to vector in, because it's super expensive to drill. So you want to do as much work as you can identifying all these various things you have to do. We are focusing on Murphy Lake and PLN. And now, again, This is, to find high-grade uranium, you must have a graphitic conductors, a corridor, clay alteration with some bleaching where the uranium went through, and all these things. We've ticked them all off. And when we find this is, you don't drill till you do these things. Why do discoveries matter? Look, every uranium stock's going to go up. If spot price goes up, they all go up. And I always recommend people own a Cameco and a developer and an exploration. Exploration companies matter because the stock doesn't go up 20%. It goes up 100%, 200% if you make a discovery. That's why discoveries really matter. This is our winter work we got planned in this fall. We start fairly soon on PLN. There's a bit of a winter storm. Those in Saskatchewan will tell you that there's a bit of a storm going on over there. And there's a lot of snow and flights are being, so we have to be careful with the weather, not risk our staff. So we're waiting to get on the ground soon. We'll find out in the next week or so. But that's the basin. These are all our properties. What we did was, when we made the discovery on RRR and fission uranium, and then we spun out Fission 3.0, which we are, we staked a whole bunch of properties before we announced the deal. So we could secretly grab all the good land, and we did. Every one of our properties has got an outcrop of uranium, or a boulder, or more importantly, might have had some history. We've been very aggressive whenever we see properties get dropped on an hourly basis. Nice thing about being Saskatchewan, even if you drop the property, you have to leave your information with the Saskatchewan government. So it's easy for everybody to say, okay, all this work was done, and we have. So this is why we got 16 projects. We are a project generator. We're going into PLN next. It's location. It's over the winter last year, we found a corridor that was running parallel to the Patterson corridor, which led to NextGen's Arrow and Fission Uranium's RRR. And so we've ticked all the boxes. Now we want to go back and drill. We'll put a few holes in. Then come winter, we'll spend some more money in there. But the whole idea is exactly that. Now we have a partner, Traction, which is going to do some work on Hardy Bay, Lazy Edward. And we talked to them, might do some work on others. At the end of the day, guys, it really comes down to the spot price. What I don't get is, our stock's down to the price when uranium was under 30. Now it's higher, but we have a huge disconnect. The overall market's been so bad. Obviously, I think hopefully with this election in the next couple of weeks, we get some clarity that might take some uncertainty out, and with higher spot prices, we'll be able to do better. These are more budgets of what we've got planned the next little while. We have 12 people on our technical team, and we're pretty proud of them. We've been able to keep them together even during the hard times. As you guys all know, it's hard to raise money. On that note, we have $7 million hard cash. Sounds crazy. We're positive cash flow. How? Well, interest rates are so high. You can put money in the bank and make 4%. And then plus we have shares of companies we do business with. We sell them on a part of the on a daily basis. So we estimate a $5.5 million hard cash, which is a lot from our small exploration company. We'll have 7, and it keeps rising each month. So there are some benefits of higher interest rates. This is PLN. I know it's impossible to see all those things, so I won't bug you, but the key thing here is that it's the same corridor, okay, that has Pure Point, NextGen, Fission Uranium, all of them are in this. And now we have found one parallel, ticking all those boxes that I showed you, so we're quite excited to go back in here in the next week or two. Murphy Lake, I'll jump on because I think I'm running out of time, but I won't leave time for questions. But we've got a good team, been around for a while. We've been able to do business with Sumitomo, Korean Electric Power Company, CGN from China. So we have, I think, a good team of technical and financial people. That's it. I think we need energy. We need baseload power that doesn't make the world any dirtier. And I think our team's done it before. We've had 2 major discoveries. We think we can find a third with better markets and a bit more money. Thanks, David.